Well, let's speak with our second guest tonight. He's a lawyer, politician, a former senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and at that time, Senate's minority leader. He also served 2 terms as governor of Akpabio State from 2007 to 2015. He is a current minister of Niger Delta Affairs, and as of now, he has declared his intention to run for the office of the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And he joins us on the program tonight to speak on his plans for the nation. Our guest tonight is Senator Godswill Akpabio. Your Excellency, thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Just riding on the back of that conversation we had with Mr. Sani Yabagi, and he was referencing Section 8412. You're a lawyer, so this is a perfect question, as it were. Some days ago, the Speaker of the House of Representatives still advised that political appointees planning to, seek elective offices should resign, since it's safer to do so because you're not sure what the court will say eventually that this has been appealed. So how do you respond to the view, for example, of the Speaker?
Well, first, thank you for having me, and thank you to viewers. My name is Godswill Akpabio. I just declared yesterday, so my voice is not very good. Realize I was shouting because of the crowd, but I'm happy to be here, and I want to thank you for the wonderful job that channel has been doing. In terms of Section 84, subsection 12, it speaks about elections. If you wish to go into primaries, you should try to resign before you go there. Even before Mr. President assented to the bill, he had mentioned and pointed out that it was not in line with the Nigerian Constitution, which contemplates 30 days before elections. So no matter the act of parliament, no matter the law, the Constitution is a ground norm and is superior to any act of parliament. And moreover, it was shut down by a court of competent jurisdiction, I think somewhere in Omahia. So for now, that law does not exist.
So are you not worried that depending on how the appeal goes?
No. I would have been worried, but for the fact that the Constitution is there, so we will depend on the Constitution at the end of the day.
In spite of the statement by the chief lawmaker and the Speaker saying, I think it's safe to
Yes, I will say that it is not a constitutional amendment. If we need to amend the Constitution of Nigeria, we can go ahead and do so. But I want to advise that anybody who is lucky enough to pick the ticket of his party, particularly for the presidency, should immediately resign. In order to give the president enough time to go around the entire country, not just to sell himself, but to also sell the program of his next administration to Nigerians.
Are you planning to resign?
As soon as my party gives me the opportunity, which I pray they do, and I will immediately resign and then I'll go around the country because I need to interact with the people. I need to see things for myself. I need to know the next agenda, and it has to be the people's agenda. Yes, I have my own ideas, but it's better to consult and also know what the people want extra. I love to promise less and do more. My pedigree says so.
Well, I was actually referring to resign even before maybe the primaries, if you don't get the ticket.
Again, it also depends on the guidelines of the party. Okay. Don't forget that. Because Section 8412 for now does not exist, having been shut down by the court of competent jurisdiction, we now have to depend on the guidelines of the party. Where the party's guideline says you should resign before the primaries, I will do so. And I will advise anybody to obey the guidelines. That's why it's important to follow due process.
Right. So let's talk about aspirant Godswill Akpabio. Your declaration added you to the now increasing list of aspirants, even though your party doesn't recognize people as aspirants until you pick up the nomination form and the expression of interest form. By the way, when is that going to happen?
It has already happened, but just like what you saw, it took you by surprise yesterday, the declaration. My form was picked up yesterday by a coalition of Northern youths who believe strongly in my capacity to cater for not just the youths of this country, but for the entire country. So I have the expression of interest form with me now, and I also have the nomination form with me. And
I think this will just dovetail in one of the major issues we're facing in the country, which is economy, the economic indices. And you can point to inflation, unemployment, the value of the naira, and essentially the cost of living in the country today. And you are part of this government, this present government, as a Minister of Niger Delta Affairs. But I would like to link it to what we're seeing, especially in your party. So the nomination form and the expression of interest form costs 100 million naira.
Yes.
For some people, they've said it is too much. Some say It is not a big deal if you're planning to be the president to control trillions of naira. Then 100 million naira is a small thing. And so far, we have seen people picking these forms as though it's just 5 naira, as it will seem. So clearly, Nigeria is not a poor country, are we?
Nigeria is not supposed to be a poor country, but at the moment we are a poor country as a result of a lot of factors, which you didn't ask me. You talked about the 100 million. The 100 million, in my view, is very fair. You see, even in modern democracies like in America, it is not the candidate that sends himself into presidential election, it's the people. So when you talk about Nigerians, just 100 Nigerians, bringing out just one naira will give you 100 million. But you are talking about millions of Nigerians who are going to cast their vote.
Is that how you raised 100 million?
Because there was a fundraising about 1 month ago by Northern Youth in Kaduna, and they raised over 100 million.
And you didn't add anything?
I don't need to, because at that time, I was still consulting to decide whether or not. And of course, when I saw that they had done that and convinced that I'm in a position to move the present administration, the activities, the legacies of the current administration to the next level, I assented to their request. And I want to think that any serious presidential candidate does not need to go into his bank account and bring out 100 million naira, because you are not the person going to vote for yourself. And that is why it's provided even in the Electoral Act that people should also contribute in order to ensure a very fantastic campaign. And so if the people have a buy-in in your coming into power, then you always remember that you have an obligation to deliver and to satisfy them.
Because, Senator, the thinking in political spaces is that, these forms are picked up by proxy. So the thinking is the aspirant essentially uses those people as front. So it would look like the people asked me to, as it is always said.
No.
Was that the case for you?
No, it's not the case. You see, the problem with Nigeria is that we never believe. Even when I was doing all the miracles in governance between 2007 and 2015, and I was being given awards everywhere, at Mapo Hall in Ibadan, I remember telling the people of Oyo State, I said, please come and see that in the Holy Book, when they said, oh, Jesus Christ was doing miracles, turning water into wine, doing this, doing that, people did not believe. I think one person, one of his aides at that time, just out of anger, shouted and said, please come and see. And I invited them to come to Akpabio and see. And then people came and they saw and they testified. And even amongst the disciples of Christ, 12 of them, when they said Christ was risen, which of course we just celebrated Easter, one of them, Thomas, did not believe. He insisted that he must see Jesus Christ face to face, and he must see where the dagger entered and see where he was nailed to the cross before he would believe. So it's normal in human society for people to doubt. So I don't think the speculation that some people are behind the glamour for people to buy forms. In my own case, you'll be shocked that even some businessmen in Lagos, under the umbrella of Godswill, they call it Godswill, Akpabio, Uncommon Transformation Support Organization, they also had money already ready to buy the form. But when they went to the National Secretariat, they found out that the coalition of Northern Youth had already bought the form.
Also, they beat them to it?
Yes, so they beat them to it. Okay. And so if you wait for the next 2 days, without this program now, you would have seen another group going to pay, because Nigerians really want.
So this is a public notice that they can stop now. You've already gotten your form.
So you can now inform them that the forms are in my hands.
Your Excellency, let's link this back to the economy, because as I said, Nigeria is not really a poor nation, because clearly we can get these funds. And I imagine just the quantum of things that can be achieved if people pull together. How do you plan really to redistribute wealth?
Well, I have done it before, and I'll do it again. The reality is that we always assume that Nigeria is a very wealthy country. That's not true. Because when you look at the number of mouths to feed, 200 million, vis-a-vis the mainstay of the economy being crude oil, at that time about 2.2 million barrels a day, compare that to what was happening in Libya, when Libya had just 4 million population, and they produced up to 4 million barrels of crude oil a day, then you will agree with me that we are not really a very rich nation. But we are endowed with a lot of mineral resources. We are endowed with human potentials, with intelligence and all that.
And that makes us rich.
And that makes us rich. Where I come from, it is not money that makes you a rich man. It is the people you have. So with 200 million, in stock. That is, you have a consumer population of 200 million. So if you're able to have very good bread, you can become a millionaire in a week. That means we are a rich country because of the people we have. Our diversity is the wealth of the nation. And also, we are bounded by the sea. The wealth of almost all the nations in the world are found in the sea. And some countries that do not have, they are landlocked, find it very difficult, to be able to go into export and all that. So we will harness the resources that we have in country. We will take care of the maritime industry. We will also take care of the mineral resources. We will have a better way of controlling the youthful population and giving them hope in order for them to bring out their intellect and then become more resourceful. And then, of course, we must continue the fight against corruption, because if we allow it, corruption can kill us. And I'll continue the same way the president is doing. What is he doing that is right in terms of fighting corruption that was not done in the past? Corruption has a twin brother, and that twin brother is poverty. So you cannot fight corruption without fighting poverty. And so with the social nets put in place, social investment programs to assist the poorest poor in the country, vis-a-vis, empowering the people and then also fighting corruption, it means we are tackling poverty. As we tackle poverty, you also reduce corruption. And because corruption deepens poverty, while poverty leads to corruption. So, in a way, I believe strongly that, yes, the economy may be what it is today, but don't forget there are a lot of factors that brought us to where we are. This administration inherited a very poor situation, and then that poor situation was exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic. Almost all over the world, it has been very difficult. In some countries, you even have people lining up for a handout. We should praise this current administration. So it's 2 years of lockdown, more or less, from 2020. It's not been easy for the whole world. Things came almost to a halt economically.
But Senator,
we are doing well.
COVID came in 2020.
2020, just 2019, really.
That's
officially. It arrived in Nigeria officially.
Yeah, we declared our lockdowns in March, essentially. So 2020. And this administration had 4 years, at first 2015 to 2019, and that was in the second year of this administration. So, I mean, there will still be questions about just how much COVID impacted, but let's still tie this back, because, I mean, these are some of the things you will hear candidates or aspirants this time around say. I would fix the economy, ensure that we get employment. It's sort of generic, and you will not blame Nigerians for getting tired of hearing the same thing. So, I mean, you have a benefit tonight of being specific. Speak to what affects Nigerians specifically. What is your game plan? Well,
let me point out that there are 3 major issues affecting Nigeria at the moment. The first issue is insecurity. The second issue is that of unity, what I may call national integration. And then, of course, the third issue is the issue of economy that you are mentioning. If we can tackle those 3 issues effectively, I can tell you that Nigeria will be on a major rise, will be greater than what we are at the moment. And then I want to also let you know that some countries like Indonesia and others have managed their economy so poorly, so badly, and the effect on the people are amazingly terrible. Even this COVID we are talking about, was it Caracas or one of those smaller countries? You saw what happened? They were dragging dead bodies on the street. Families were dragging dead bodies to put on the street. The bodies were decomposing and all that. People thought we were going to get to that level of pandemic in this country. But this administration has done a fantastic job. So Nigerians fail to see the best of itself. We look out for the worst, and particularly for the press. I always try to advise that, yes, we were set up to fight colonial masters. The colonial masters have since gone.
The press was set up to fight colonial?
Of course, that was the essence of the press at that time. West African pilot, all of them. Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, Enauro, all of them that was more or less the agenda.
Senator
Akpabio, to pursue the colonial masters.
You have worked
not
with the
to
press.
Inform the people. No,
there are no colonial masters anymore.
So that's the point.
The job of the press is to inform,
now look out
to
for
educate,
the best,
and set the agenda.
You must look out for the best in any administration. You must propagate the best that you see in your country. The colonial masters are gone. It's now we. We now have to look out and promote those things that will lead to national integration and also lead to revival and reinvigoration of the Nigerian economy. So for me, I believe that if we can tackle those 3 major issues I've mentioned to you, then Nigeria will be on the rise. And if you ask me, how did I do it? In my state, I was probably the only governor in Nigeria that was able to do 80% in terms of capital allocation on a yearly basis and 20% recurrent. I plugged the loopholes of leakages in the system. And that is why we had the kind of outflow of capital projects that you saw. We cannot put something on nothing and expect it to stand. So the heydays of what you used to hear in Akwa Ibom, some people said Akwa Ibom are okay. Some said uncommon transformation. In fact, Nigerians are not wrong in urging me to come out. And I'm convinced within me that based on the love I've seen this current president show to Nigeria, you won't believe it. Continuing old projects that were started by past administrations, and on a daily basis, churning out projects after projects in order to build the infrastructure and lay the foundation for the growth of the nation, with a good president coming out in 2023. Don't forget, it must not be Godswill Akpabio. But if it is Godswill Akpabio, then it means you should be sure that yes, indeed, Nigeria will go higher than where we are.
Okay, we'll get to that point, but you probably didn't hear me when I said that you were in the PDP at the time when you said you did great things in your party. So
yes,
that was in the PDP. How are we sure you can do that in the APC of today?
No. It's a leadership. Once it's in your DNA, it's in your DNA. So don't worry about it. Political party is a vehicle. It's almost like a supermarket. The people come in and go out. Those who started PDP are probably in APC today. I know people who left APC in 2019, and 1 week later, they became presidential candidates, became senatorial candidates, became governorship candidates, and vice versa. So the distinction should not be there. You look at the character, you look at the record. You don't need to like my face, but please look at my record. If my record is good enough, then you must join hands with the Nigerian youths, the women, and all those who are clamoring that Godswill should be done in 2023.
So essentially you're saying there's no difference between the APC and
I wouldn't say there's a lot of difference. Maybe just in name, to be very honest with you. In my personal opinion, yes, this side is much more progressive, and we thought the other side were capitalists. But when you have a lot of capitalists coming into the APC, are you going to say that APC is still the same again? So for me, I think that the only difference is that one is in power and one is in opposition. But even when I was in opposition, I pointed out that you have to engage in constructive opposition. You must have the interests of Nigeria at heart. The only political party I like to belong is Nigeria. And my agenda is Nigeria. And that's why I'm running for the presidency of this country.
So tomorrow you can go back to the PDP, whichever works.
I won't be able to go back to the PDP, personally. But I'm not one of those who will say that if I go back, I will die. I don't know how they put it. They said, should I go back? I will commit suicide. I'm not one of those people. But for me, this is my last bus stop. I'm not, if events force me to join the party, number one, I saw the sincerity of Mr. President. I saw his efforts when I was in National Assembly. I also saw the efforts of people who assisted to bring him into power, attempting to abandon him and attempting to derail him. And I said, no, this cannot happen, because you have to think Nigerian. You mustn't continue to think of your personal interests alone. Whether you're happy or not with the people in government, you must think of Nigeria. That was why I said, no, I must step out and join this president to continue to move this country forward, because I know he's doing a great job for the country.
You know, you won the governorship election on the back of that slogan, let God's will be done.
Let God's will be done.
And I'd like you to paint this picture of God's will that you see for Nigeria. Paint that picture for Nigerians. What does God's will look like for
Nigeria?
First,
for whether you call Allah or whether you call God or whatever name, Jehovah, there is only one God, a supreme being, and that supreme being is love. That is the picture you need to know. If you love your children, your child cannot ask you for bread, and you give the child a stone. So the cardinal principle that should guide governance in this country is love. And that love also must transcend boundaries. Irrespective of whether you are a Muslim, you are a Christian, or whether you are from this ethnic group or that ethnic group, that should not come in. So that is the Godswill I like to see. I like to see Nigerians loving themselves. If I love you, I will not kidnap you. If I love you, I will not come and behead you. If I love you, you will not be standing looking for PVC somewhere in Imo State, and I will come with gun and start killing you because I'm trying to agitate that I'm not happy, I want a new republic or whatever. Are you getting my point? Nobody can harm the other if you love. So let us say that God's will for the people signifies love. And love brings happiness. And of course, happiness brings prosperity. Because at the end of the day, what happened in my state was born out of love. And not so much out of money. You understand? Not that we were the richest in my tenure as governor. No. But because I had the love of the people in my heart.
And you want to be president.
I had the love of Nigerians in my heart. And I want to extend that love to the entirety of Nigeria. It's very, very serious.
Which is why you want to be president.
Let us forget the number of people coming out for presidential race. Let us rather welcome them. But let's know that we have issues. And that issue is, may Almighty Allah, may Almighty God look into the heart and the sincerity of Nigerians and bring out the best that would love this country. Because if you love this country, you give this country quality infrastructure. If you love this country, you unite this country. If you love this country, you will not know the difference between your children and Nigerians on the road. The same way I was able to give free education to all Nigerian children who found themselves in Akpabio State for 8 years.
Okay.
And that's the same way I want to. You must carry this country like an egg, in your heart, not in your mouth.
Okay. Well, Your Excellency, so essentially you want this God's will to be done. That's why you're running for president.
For love to prevail.
So would you say that this current administration is God's will for Nigeria?
Well, I believe so, because if you remember what happened at the beginning, there was this current president at the time. In the opposition were abusing him. Of course, he also must have abused us then in government at that time. And then, all of a sudden, one day, he came out publicly and said, I'm no longer going to run for the presidency of Nigeria. So then today, he's president of Nigeria. You know what happened? Where the power of man stops is where the power of God starts. It's at that time that God said, no, Nigeria still needs you. Nigeria needs a fatherly figure. Nigeria needs somebody who can blend. Because we have forgotten all the problems that happened at that time in the PDP. We have even forgotten the fact that there was a time I, as chairman of the ruling governors in the country, protested to the government of the day that we're not getting revenue from oil. We're getting zero allocation, almost on a monthly basis. We have forgotten all those things. So for somebody to come at the time he came, I believe it was God's will. And I still believe it is God's will. And I assure you that based on what I've witnessed personally in the Federal Executive Council, there has never been anything like presidential commissioning in the NDDC in 19 years. But this man has done 3 presidential commissioning, nobody has looked. NDDC used to pay about 300 million a year as rent for 19 years, and yet spent trillions. Well, and today, Senator, he has finished 26-story building for them. He has finished 13-story building for them. Right. Finished another ancillary 4-story structures. And he has done 3 presidential commissionings in 1 year.
Well, because of our time,
and this year he will do more.
Let's talk security now. I mean, yes, a lot of areas to cover. We've touched on economy at least, but in terms of security, and I mean, Nigerians feel this better than anyone can even describe to them. And it perhaps ties back to the question of God's will as well. So what are you planning to do, or what do you hope to do? What kind of vision do you have to solve that intractable security problem?
Again, love.
Are you going to legislate on love? How would you do that?
If we can propagate love in Nigeria, even the security services would love themselves and would love their country.
How will that be done?
Let me tell you what I suspect is going to happen in 2023. This is just between you and I. Don't tell anybody.
And our viewers.
Okay, maybe the viewers. Do you know that in 1968, when the Nigerian Biafra War was going on, Pele, the football legend, visited Nigeria. On that day, both the Biafran troop and the Nigerian troop agreed to a ceasefire to welcome Pele. And they were crossing enemy lines and exchanging beer, exchanging bread, exchanging food, and exchanging banters. After Pele departed, the war continued. What you are seeing today is that as soon as the will of God is done in Nigeria, everything will come to an end.
So is football the solution?
No, I didn't get you.
Is football the solution?
It's not. I'm not talking about football. I'm talking about the import of that decision, that everything came to an end. Don't forget that God controls the affairs of men. And so if God puts love in your heart, you will not go out there killing people, kidnapping them and all that. I'm saying that when the will of God is done in 2023, that even there will be a truce, even among the kidnappers, among the miscreants, and among those who are enemies of Nigeria, sponsoring all these.
I wonder what you would say then if another candidate emerges. Let's say your party chooses a consensus option. Would you still say that's God's will?
Well, what I believe I will do is that, you know, at the moment, I'm in charge of Niger Delta, and particularly South-South region. And then what has happened in the South-South region? You have seen the peace in the South-South region. It's the most peaceful region today. You have seen the fact that people are much more focused. You have seen the forensic audit that we have completed in the NDDC. You won't hear about scandalous allegations of theft and corruption any longer. And then you can see even the fact that there's nothing like militancy in the Niger Delta region. So I'm not saying that I'm the one doing it. I believe it is the love that I've shown my stakeholders and my youth.
Well, this question is about consensus. Yes, I understand you want to sell, definitely, but this is particularly about consensus.
You're getting me. You're also a politician because you really got what I want. The question of consensus, this is the reason why that section 8412 could not have worked. Because you can't say that consensus is election. And then some political parties have in their guideline, selection. Selection is not election. So the contemplation of election, in my view, even though the matter is before the court, is that as enshrined in the Nigerian constitution, which is general election, that you must resign 30 days to the general election.
So again,
consensus is not really election.
So let me rephrase this. What would be your reaction if your party chooses the consensus way?
And the person is me? I'll be very excited.
The person is not you.
Are you contesting?
It's a question.
Well, if the person is not me, I will try my best to see if the person can work with me, and all the ideas that I have for the betterment of this country and for the security of this country, I'll lay it before that person.
Well, it's also been said, our guests before said that, you know, nobody in this government exactly has a moral right to come out and say, I want to be president. It's either you're trying to say, the president has not done enough, which is why I want to come and fix things. Or he wonders, what exactly do you want to continue? No. So if you can do that in a minute before I put in my last question, yes. How do you respond?
If all the people in this government have every right to come and say they want to be president, because they have been able to work under a man of integrity. They've seen his efforts, even in difficult periods, despite the conspiracies of enemies of Nigeria. Don't forget that some of these insecurity you are seeing are not Nigerian made. Some of them are imported. And every administration has its own challenge. Would you say that George Bush did not love the people of America when 9/11 happened, and in one day alone, over 4,000 Americans were wiped out, including visitors? Would you go and blame George Bush for that? Will you blame dear then President Shagari for Maitasine riot?
But you know, after the 9/11, we didn't see subsequent attacks.
Of course, in fact, no. America has
the DSS came out to say that we're seeing the modus operandi of pre-2015 again.
No. Well, you know, wasn't America that predicted that Nigeria was going to come to an end?
No, this is particularly, I gave you the DSS report example. The DSS came out to say, we're seeing the modus operandi of terrorists pre-2015. What they were doing pre-2015 is what we're beginning to see now. So clearly, we have a major challenge.
Whatever they are doing now, I believe that the enemies you are seeing today, you will see them no more. So the reason why I said every person in this government has a right and a moral justification to come out to seek presidency is because the government is doing what you cannot know. Security is not something you discuss on television.
No, it's what you can see, Senator.
The number of attacks that have been repelled or that you are not aware of are more than the ones that you have seen. So once in a while, when you see something slips by, it's like a telephone. When it clocks, because you know it's like we call it the Q theory. Every line comes in and it clocks and it jams, and no line comes out. Then suddenly one call passes through.
Well, it's interesting you are going back to your experience in the telecoms industry. But on a final note, Your Excellency, let's round up with this question. Just last year, I think December, you said that the president was still studying the NDDC audit report, and that's a report a lot of Nigerians were looking forward to.
It's been implemented. I'm sorry.
So where are we now with that report?
Where we are now is that
have people been taken to court?
If you go to the EFCC today, you will see not less than 40 past and present contractors of NDDC on the ground. Where we are now is
being investigated,
being investigated, and monies are being recovered, and then many have gone back to do projects. I have sent people to commission roads that were awarded in 2006, monies collected, and then of course abandoned. We have commissioned over 81 roads as I speak with you now, and a lot of sterilization programs that are going on.
I just wonder.
No, just to let you know.
We have to round up now, Your
I know, but let me.
But will we get to see
the
outcome of that audit report?
Yes, definitely.
We will. Okay.
The outcome will come with even the outcome of the implementation.
All right, we have to anchor
and then
now.
you'll be very proud of this president.
We have to anchor now. It's been quite an interesting conversation with you.
Thank you.
Clearly, the coming days will be intriguing in the political space.
Intriguing.
But it's been a show tonight, Senator Godswill.
But I hope you watch what happened yesterday.
Oh, clearly. But we have to run now. We're going to hopefully continue this conversation another time, Your Excellency.
You don't need to.
Senator Godswill Akpabio is a former governor of Akwa Ibom State. He's a current
and the incoming minister
of the Niger Delta. Well, that's for your party to decide. But we have to run now. Thank you so much for your time.
I'm giving you also the opportunity. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Well, that's the program tonight. Clearly, a very engaging one with Senator Godswill Akpabio. The coming days will be interesting, and we ask you to stay with us right here on Channels Television. I'm Kayode Bukele. Good night.